How does the Fiio K11 R2R compare to the cheap DAC AK4499EX from AKM and the ES9039S Pro from ESS Tech? What's the difference between oversampling OS mode and non-oversampling NOS mode? What about the USB connection, UAC2 mode? Is it better than the UAC1? And finally, I will explain to you how to fix the biggest weakness of the Fiio K11 R2R. Yes, there is a big issue. I will explain to you. Hi, I am Mary. This isn't my first YouTube channel about audio, but it's the first one where I appear to you speaking in English. If my pronunciation is too bad for you, there are subtitles, okay? In English and in Portuguese. I live in Portugal, but I am from Brazil. And if you don't know, Portuguese is the official language of both countries. Okay, I am an electronic engineer and audio enthusiast. So, only to make clear my convictions about the world of hi-fi audio equipment, I don't think a cassette tape sounds better than a DAC, okay? But each time my cassette deck does a snap, I feel myself synchronized with the reality of time. That's right, huh? But I also love to look for increments in my digital path, which is why this channel will live between the duality of tape and the DAC, sometimes more analog and sometimes more digital. In terms of value, money, I need to point out that I believe that good headphones with good amplifiers are the best option in terms of cost-benefit. That's what I believe. Of course, a room with proper acoustic treatment and giant speakers with powerful amplifiers bring more life to your sound, but at a cost I'm not willing to pay, sorry, but calm down. If you are, stay here on this channel. I'm sure there will also be a lot of exciting content for you too. Like this deck, for example, like the Fiio K11 R2R. This is not my first deck with R2R technology, but it is the first R2R deck that brought me great emotions with music. I already had a K11 RU7 with R2R technology, which I do not recommend. I do not recommend any USB type dongle, and it's just for one reason. In this type of device, the power is supplied through the same USB connection with high-speed data, which adds a lot of noise to the power line. Noise over DAC circuits or amplifier circuits will result in sound distortion. And it's not a good distortion, it's a digital distortion. At the minimum, I recommend to you a DAC with a separate power supply like we have here in the Fiio K11 R2R. Let's do the unboxing of the Fiio K11 R2R. Listen, there is one important thing about this unboxing, and it's related to the outermost box that is made with such thin paper that I ripped it at the time of opening. Such was my excitement to hear the sound of the DAC. So take it easy to open, okay? In terms of presentation, it seems a low quality equipment, but no, it's not. I mean, maybe some parts of the chassis, it's easy to scratch, so take it easy with this. There are some parts of plastic in the bottom, but I think they just try to save costs as much as possible with the packing and this chassis to lower the selling price for the item. It's probably the DAC with the best cost benefit in the market today. The price, $160, at least inside the United States. In Europe, it is almost 200 euros. I will try to put a link in the description because, pay attention, Fiio has an identical deck called only K11 without R2R technology, which comes with a Cyrus Logic chip, a Sigma Delta chip deck that sounds very, very different. In fact, what you want is this R2R version. It is written R2R in chassis and on the box as well. So let's talk about the most exciting features of this deck. The deck incorporates the recently released SGM RJ8262 operational amplifier chip. And it is also improved with heatsinks on top of its package to exceed the nominal power output. That chip can massively increase the volume of your headphones without adding noticeable distortion, even at very high volumes. I constantly use here two headphones, the Focal Pure MG Professional to mix or master some content, and I use the Philips SHP 9500 for more prolonged content listening, which is a headphone highly comfortable. In this case, both headphones have 32 ohms impedance. I have the fantastic headphone amplifier DAC R2R Pro, which has a video on the channel, or will be soon. This amplifier is considered one of the best headphone amplifiers in the market today. And the amplifier of the K11 R2R is just a little behind. I mean, in terms of clean gain, of course, the DAC R3 has other features that the K11 R2R doesn't. There is a RCA connector line output in the back here. There is two outputs for headphones, one balanced and another unbalanced. The balanced is the standard 4.4 millimeters, and the unbalanced is the 6.3 millimeters standard. But there is an adapter that came with the package, so you can, of course, use your 3.5 millimeters headphone connection directly with the use of this adapter. But I don't recommend you to use both outputs at the same time, because sharing power between power outputs is not a good idea if you want the best sound. And guys, if you plug your DAC into another equipment, you must use the line output to get the signal in the correct voltage, because the headphones outputs in a DAC are made to control phones, and the phones are passive elements. They will sink electric current. Any other audio equipment with line input is self-powered. They don't need so much electric current. They need a voltage level, and it's supplied by the standard line output from other equipment. So that's because you need to use the line output to get the signal as clean as possible. Back to the features, it accepts digital sound from the USB connection Type-C and the coaxial SPDIF, and even from an optical port. You can connect it, for example, to your CD player, your audio interface, or even with your very old Sound Blaster, if your Sound Blaster has some SPDIF or optical ports, of course, because there isn't a line in here to use just the amplifier. I think it would be interesting to have a line in this DAC, but there isn't. Okay, in terms of power, it has input for 12 volts DC power supply in a standard barrel with 5.5 millimeters outside and 2.1 inside. The power supply included in the box has up to 2 amperes output capacity, and I think for $160, it's hard to believe that the power supply is good enough for an hi-fi audio equipment. For convenience, I added a smart filter, which I will explain at the end of the video. As described in the website, the internal voltage circuit seems very well designed and enough for good enough AC adapters. I mean, AC adapters without too much noise. Okay, this DAC has a single rotate button. It also has an LCD and configurable RGB LED under the Fiio logo. With a quick click on the button, you select which digital input comes from the audio, USB, opto, and coaxial. And in this case, I'm just using the USB. With an extended click for some seconds, you can set parameters such as gain range, which I always recommend you set to high or H, because the gain for headphones is never too much. The parameter sound output, you can select PO to turn the headphone amplifiers on in both headphones output. If you select pre, you can use the line output and control the volume of this line output using the wheel. If you set LO, you will also have the signal through the line output, but in this case using the maximum output, and that is what I'm using here when I connect it to the cassette deck. So I think that's the best because it's a standard maximum value. But of course, depends on your equipment. The send parameter means sampling mode. I suggest always setting it to OS oversampling, since a slight distortion is added in NOS mode, non-oversampling. And for my ears, this distortion caused by the NOS mode makes the sound of low and medium frequencies more exciting, but it adds a lot of distortion in the high frequencies. So depending on the music, you may prefer one mode to the other. So test it. Another common question in the settings is about the UAC mode, which can be set to 1 or 2. It's referred to the class communication, the speed of the USB communication with the computer or with the smartphone or I don't know, whatever device you connected to it. Setting it for UAC 1 limits the audio to 24 bits at 96 kHz, and UAC 2 allows you to go up to 384 kHz with 32 bits. I prefer UAC 1 because all my songs are below 96 kHz. In that way, the USB chip internal to the K11 R2R will operate with a slower clock, generating less digital noise internally. You can configure the LED color on the file logo and the brightness of the display, but I leave the LED off all the time and the display at the minimum. It's possible to turn off the display, but if you do that, you don't know when the DAC is on or off. So I recommend setting the brightness to a minimum. But let's talk about the most exciting feature. Allow me to clarify the great asset of this DAC, which is the R2R technology conceived here in a different way and with a resolution of up to 24 bits. Supposedly because it's a digital perspective. On the analog side, we never know. Explaining just a little about the R2R technology, it is similar or a specific type DAC technology known as multi-bit or even ladder. These three names, ladder, multi-bit, and R2R, the approach is the same. Of course, the implementation in the circuit is different, but the approach is the same. In all of these types, the voltage levels are well defined through the resistors at the end of the converter circuit. So you have a lot of resistors. And this resistance assign a value ideally accurate, but even with the best resistors in the world, they will have slight differences in values among themselves and minor variations in value with the temperature drift. Therefore, even with the best resistors in the world, it would be possible to reach only an accuracy of a DAC equivalent to 60 bits. So how is Fiio selling this DAC as having 24 bits of precision? Fiio and probably all R2R DAC manufacturers use a dual or differential resistor network to transform digital data into analog for each channel, left and right. This suppresses the errors caused by temperature drifts, enabling 24-bit accuracy. Supposedly, what about traditional sigma delta type DACs? What differs? A sigma delta circuit must operate at megahertz on its digital part, which is so close to the analog part that much digital noise is transferred to the analog part. That technology is cheaper to implement inside the chip, but more complex to understand than R2R technology. On the other hand, implementing a high-resolution R2R DAC inside the chip is very expensive because resistors occupy a lot of space, and even if you implement it, matching many resistors inside the same chip is almost impossible. You need to reject the most significant part of the production, which adds more and more costs at the end. The industry choose sigma delta DACs because they have the lowest production costs. The best sigma delta chip DAC converters today have between 20 and 21 bits of precision in the analog world. The rest of bits are poor noise. Nowadays, to get more precision with sigma delta chips is to combine multiple sigma delta chips in parallel to minimize that noise and achieve more precision. But calm down. Do not throw away your DAC with Sigma Delta chip. It has a drum card and I will explain it with musical examples. Okay, so let me explain to you how the music sounds with the DAC R2R Fiio K11 R2R using my Focal Clear MG Professional headphones. In the sub-bass, it sounds like a punch over your ears. The best song to feel that punch straight with this DAC is Zenny by Billie Eilish. Please go to any music store and buy that music. But let the volume be as low as possible, otherwise you will be surprised when the punch comes in the middle of the song and even more at the end of the song. My best previous DAC reference for that song was using the AK4499EX from AKM, which does a good job as well, but the Fiio K11 R2R has a more precise and more powerful punch on the sub-bass range. I mean, the transient is more, well, defined. Yeah. Next, at low frequencies, I choose the song Love is Embarrassing by Olivia Rodrigo because it talks about our embarrassing love for our equipment. You know, that's true. Okay, it's because this song always plays with sub-low and low frequencies, highlighting them. And for my ears, this song has more fun using the K11 R2R. In this frequency range, the transient sounds more intense and have a faster attack time than in the AK4499EX and even using the ES9039S Pro. Now, regarding the medium frequencies, here was a song I did not expect would sound so impactful. Yeah, the song is Memórias, or Memories in English, sung by the Brazilian singer Pitty, but you write Pity, so yeah. And this song from Pitty, Memórias, has a lot of distortion on medium frequencies, and in the song you will can hear the distortion at medium frequencies very well defined. That is because I'm using this music as an example. Next, the high mid range. Here things start to get complicated for the Fiio K11 R2R. It realizes, but my ears like the ES9039S Pro sound from ESS Tech on this range. And secondly, the AK4499EX sound. Using the K11 R2R, I recommend you turning on the OS mode to get better results in this frequency range. I mean, exit the NOS mode because that generates extra frequencies that aren't part of the music. The song chosen here is perhaps the one of the best mixed and mastered songs I have ever heard. It's Pain by the War on Drugs because it uses almost the entire range of audible frequencies and can highlight each frequency band with excellent dynamics. And this song can help you equalize your audio equipment properly. Then, in the high frequencies above 15 kHz, we have the weakest point of the DAC Fiio K11 R2R. And I don't know if it is a matter of the R2R technology. Please tell me in the comments below if you have an expensive R2R DAC and if you miss high frequencies in your music too. But I know that Taiwan's RU7 has similar behavior. Here, at high frequencies, your ears will miss the sound of Sigma Delta type DACs. The best music to test the high frequencies in your equipment is Racy for the Prize by the Flaming Lips. In the classic version of the song, the drum cymbals constantly vibrate, filling the high frequencies. Please try that music in your audio equipment to understand how complex it is to balance the high frequencies in a song. I got worried the first time I listened to that music with the Fiio K11 R2R because it was wrong. But calm down. I understood the problem and I will teach you how to fix this issue. But first, I wanted to compare in terms of volume or tiny volume variations at a level very close to the threshold of what DACs understand as noise. To do that analysis, we have another Brazilian rock and roll band, But in this case, it's a bad example. Not because of the band, but because of the quality of a specific music recording. The name of the song is Garotos, or Boys in English, made by the Brazilian pop rock band Kid Abelha e os Abóboras Selvagens, or in English, Kid P and the Wild Pumpkins. This song was poorly produced in 1985 when everything was recorded, mixed, and mastered analogically on tapes. Even the current digital version was released with tremendous background noise. Yeah, this type of noise is called hiss, and in that music, the hiss is not conventional and constant. Here, the noise varies slowly. It has three distinct levels of volume, which can sound on your back like one, just a hiss, like it is in an analog world. Two, like a bizarre digital noise, because it may be on the threshold of your deck. Sometimes it reproduces, sometimes not, but in a speedway, which generates a digital noise over an analog noise, and that's madness. And you can list this madness, depending on your deck, of course. And the third and the last possibility is not to hear any noise, because your deck entirely filtered the noise. Okay, and so how does the Fiio K11 R2R behave compared to the chip's deck when playing the music Garotos? The K11 R2R reproduces this hiss-like noise very intensely. I mean, it bothers the ears with the same intensity as a cassette deck does. However, it is not well balanced because that noise has frequencies close to the deck's weak point. In comparison, the AK4499EX from AKM seems to reproduce all the noise well balanced, but to my ears it is not as intense as the reality of a cassette deck. It sounds a little blurred on the AK4499EX. Finally, in the ES9039S Pro, I felt that the noise is filtered when it reaches shallow volumes, but does not generate digital noise. It just eliminates or dramatically reduces part of the noise. 3 decks and 3 different behaviors for the same noise. And I only know how to balance the Fiio K11 R2R to get the perfect hiss. Yes, perfect hiss. There are two ways, and the best option is to use an stereo amplifier with tone control, like the G-Shelly R3 Pro, which allows the increase or decrease of both high and low frequencies. To correct the Fiio K11 R2R signal with the G-Shelly R3, increase the volume of the high frequencies between 10 and 20%. Here, I also increase the low frequencies at the same level, but this is because of my headphones. They are unbalanced at sub-bass response, so I just compensated it. The second way to fix this is to change the equalizer in your music player. I use the Colibri app on Mac, and in its equalizer, I just raised the 16 kHz range by 3.5 dB, and on the 80 kHz range by 1.5 dB. And it's fixed. After you get the best parameters, please leave the comments in the comments here the settings to other people benefit from that. And last but not least, accessories to improve the sound of Fiio K11 R2R. The first one that I was talking about is the item that I call Smart Supercap for 12 volts. It also has a filter, but I consider it a quick energy buffer. Just it. It has a switch button to turn on and off the voltage output, so it's possible to turn off your Fiio K11 R2R quickly, because it doesn't have a power button. Yeah, there's no power button here. The second item is balanced cables with 4.4mm connectors for your headphones, if your headphones support balanced cables, of course. This is because the balanced output in the Fiio K11 R2R can deliver more sound power with less gain. In conclusion, is the DAC Fiio K11 R2R worth it? Surely yes. If you don't have an external DAC or only use dongle type DACs, this DAC is perfect for you, mainly for the great headphone amplifier and standard line-out RCA output. Although it has issues reproducing sounds in medium, high, and high frequencies, you can overcome them with the tips that I gave you. Now it's your time. in the comments. Give me some tips on songs that you use to test equipment and explain to me why you use those songs. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Come on. Okay, I'm waiting for your like. Oh, not yet? Okay. And now? Oh, thank you.